Evening, Spurs fans. Welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone as well. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it, or at least just having a nice, quiet, relaxing evening as we, of course, descend into the Champions League tomorrow night. We as well have the typing's a little loud there, Sam, by the way. The Champions League is tomorrow night, and we, of course, have some to maybe dissect tonight as well, some juicy games. But really, I think we're all have our heads maybe tied up with the game on Sunday against Forest. That feels like a cup final, whereas weirdly, this Champions League game against a huge team in Atletico Madrid almost feels like a distraction, really, to be perfectly honest. Billy, thanks for taking time out of your evening. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. And we have a few different things to get stuck into, but maybe for once, we now have you on after, I know it wasn't a win, but it feels like a win against Liverpool.
Yeah, and feels like the first. I don't know if you guys felt the same. It felt like going into work on yesterday was the first time you kind of can go into work without kind of cower away from any co-workers that like football. It's just first time in a very long time that you don't feel ashamed to be a Spurs fan. And it sounds we're over egging that because it was a draw, but I think what it represents is really important as well, as we will drill down into. But really. I think for the first time we saw a bit of fighting spirit, and just want to echo the happy St. Patrick's Day to all the fellow Irish Hotspur members and viewers, and let's hope Tottenham get a bit of luck.
Yeah, we definitely. I don't even know if we needed any luck against Liverpool. If anything, we were unlucky. Some could even say that we might have deserved to win.
The press seemed to label us as lucky and stuff, didn't they? But I think that's the way it's going to be this season. But yeah, I echo that as well. I thought there were bits of it we left a draw being a little bit disappointed, right? Which is mad, considering I don't think any Spurs fan in the universe would have predicted a win at Anfield.
Well, I mean, the media haven't done us any favors. They've been going after Tudor. Of course, they went after Ange. And then with Thomas Frank, they gave him all the time in the world. And then, of course, it seems like they also almost are willing us to go down. So the media are not showing us any luck whatsoever. No clovers there. Sam, I mean, the happy clapper in me is just trying to cling on to any sort of signs of hope or any sort of signs of positivity, really, from that Liverpool result. And it does feel good, though, to now have you back on. I said feels like a win. Of course, it was only a draw, only 1 point, but maybe something to cling on to finally.
Yeah, I mean, it was getting a bit ridiculous, wasn't it? I kind of forget sometimes that I haven't spoken about a win in so long, and I watch other podcasts where I hear them being saying to their guests, "Oh, we haven't had you on for a point in so long," and I didn't even think to myself that also is me. That's I've just tried to stay away from it. But as 3 weeks ago, I drilled down. I believe we're going to stay up. I think we've got enough, and I'm hoping that people can, start to think a little bit more positively. Look, we're still very far away from that safety net, but this is the right thing. And a point against Liverpool. Yes, it's not the most amazing Liverpool we've ever seen. I was very worried when they brought on Salah and Ekitike. Yeah. But we still, you can only face what's in front of you. I'm sure we'll get more into it. I'll just end on this. I was so confident we'd get something out of the game. At 20 minutes, they scored after 19 minutes, right? At 20 minutes, I said Richarlison had a couple shots, and I said to myself, I never make any bets. I probably bet once every 2 years when I'm just feeling it. And I said Richarlison, 25 minutes, I put the bet on Richarlison to get the next goal. And then he missed 6 chances. And I was like to my brother, oh my God, have I jinxed this? Then we scored. And then I was celebrating. And then I realized it was Richarlison. So I rugby tackle my brother, 120 quid, let's go.
Yeah. We're going to Applebee's. We're dining out. It was, I mean, a pretty Richarlison-esque performance in that he missed some clear free headers, and then the goal that he actually scores, he hits off both of his feet, right, and skews it or ends up shanking it off of both of his feet, and it goes in the back of the net. I think we're all becoming Richie fans at the moment. We're going to get stuck into this, though, everybody. Please, as you're coming in here, do smash the like button. Would really appreciate it. And, of course, as well, make yourself known in the live chat. Good to see Donovan is in the house. He's sporting the green. Dropkick your teacher. He's maybe, I don't know, dispelling the fact that Van de Ven is dispelling these rumors. Maybe he doesn't believe Van de Ven by the looks of his comment from there. We also have Tyler saying, disagree that we did not play well, and I'm not going to overreact just because we finally showed the bare minimum amount of fight. Liverpool were awful. The game was there for the taking, and our lack of quality. I can see where people like Tyler are coming from, Sam, because it is only one performance. We've kind of been crying out for that sort of fight, that sort of commitment for a while now. It's not like it's too late, but it just feels like we've been asking for that sort of type of grit for weeks, if not months now, since we started to slip into trouble of relegation. And this is the first time that we've seen it. Who's to know? Maybe it was just a once in a while or kind of flash in the pan, but I can see why some people, skeptical might be a harsh word, but some people are just not too sure yet whether that is something that we'll see on a regular basis, maybe from now on.
Look, I mean, it's kind of on you if you get catfished by these players after like one performance. I mean, how many times have we seen that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, me too, but I think just we've seen so many games where like one or two players have a good game or like an okay game. I think our standards are so low, and I think this is kind of what Tyler's like alluding to. Our standards are so low that when we play well for like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, rather than putting in a full 90-minute performance, that's enough for us at the moment, because we are so used to seeing absolutely nothing that when we do see those periods where we have a few shots, we keep them in their half, it's like, oh shit, we're playing well. And so I get what Tyler's saying, but then at the same time, it's like, damn, we've literally been limited to such little things to cheer about. Like, I am happy at this game, that's a massive point for us, not least of all because it stops the rot that we've had. And obviously going to Anfield, probably none of these players, at least when they were Spurs players, have probably ever got a point there.
Yeah.
So, that's also a big hurdle. And I don't want to get too ahead of it. And, I'm not necessarily backing these players to be world beaters, and I'm not necessarily backing the manager either. Again, I don't want to go too heavy into that because I'm sure we'll discuss that later on. But, it's definitely a step in the right direction. And if we can't be positive after, and like Tyler's saying, he's happy. Like if we can't be happy or positive after a point when we've been so shit, then when can we be happy,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think everyone's happy with the point. It's just whether people want to read into it deeper than just that, right? And that's where I can totally understand where people are coming from. Some people might need to see more. Me, maybe like you, Sam, I get catfished very easily. It's the inner happy clapper in me. I see some signs of life. I'll get a breadcrumb and I'll turn it into a Michelin star meal of a performance, really. But I'm just maybe one of those suckers of fans. Maybe it's just the Spurs fan in me when you become desperate like that.
What did Tudor say? He said there's no one with a glass full at Tottenham, didn't he? I think he said in one of his interviews recently.
Yeah, it feels like we've smashed all the glasses, to be honest, this season. Shemtan, good to see you in the house. Thomas 1980, always appreciate your support. Tom THFC, happy Paddy's Day to you as well, sir. Good to see so many people in the house. Let's get this thing going, everybody. I mean, Billy, let's talk about tomorrow night. Should Igor Tudor rest important players like, let's say, Romero, who's returning, Udogie, that's returning, Richarlison, who's now probably everyone's savior for the remainder of the season? Should we kind of just give up on this Atletico game tomorrow night, be more focused on the Nottingham Forest game, and then consider resting some of our players? Do we even have enough players fit, I guess, to consider resting anyone?
Probably no is the answer to that, but it's a really difficult balancing act. Because on the one hand, you want to just rest everyone for Sunday, right? And everyone the Sunday is undoubtedly the more important game. On the other hand, what you don't want is a situation where you get hammered or something and you lose momentum, because we only saw that literally a week ago today. And the fact that that Atletico game away didn't necessarily mean much to our season, because I think all Tottenham fans are focused on relegation, but it was such a disaster, and the situation that unfolded, and obviously Kinski being taken off and all that kind of stuff, that it ended up becoming really important just in how much it derailed the sort of any kind of morale. And it was a minor miracle, really, that we've managed to turn that around in the space of 3 or 4 days. And everyone, including the press, was saying that Tudor's gone after Liverpool, but he's still here. But so the point of that is that a meaningless game can become meaningful if you mess it up really, really badly. So we don't want that to happen either. So it's a difficult balancing act. I'd go for a bit of a mixture. I think it's, to me, from his press conference today, it sounded like he's going to play Romero. Is what I was sort of gleaming from that, because he said Bergvall and Udogie will be on the bench. He didn't say Romero will be on the bench, which I think means he's going to start. I think he might go back 5 as well, but it's a difficult balance now. Obviously, now that Solanke is unlikely to play because he has a small problem, which is absolutely horrifying words for Tottenham fans. Any kind of small problem generally turns into a massive one.
Yeah.
There's not really much he can do. He's going to have to play. Obviously, Richarlison suspended. He's going to have to play Taylor Moani up front without a doubt. I imagine Xavi will then come in if he sticks with a 4-4-2, or if he goes for. He seems to like 2 up top, doesn't he? So I imagine that'll be. We've only got 2 strikers, Moani and Tell, so it has to be them 2. And yeah, it'd be great if we could rotate a second string squad, but we just simply don't have the bodies. So even with players like Bergvall and Udogie coming back, I think he'll have to go pretty strong.
Yeah, it just is typical Spurs this season, though, right? That the moment we get players back, all of a sudden, then another one ends up, then having a knock or something. It's like a trade. It feels like every single time. Well, if you get this many players, yeah,
exactly. It's like Anne said a couple of years ago, isn't it? Every time I think I see light at the end of a tunnel, it's an oncoming train. And that seems to be our injury crisis.
It's only
Richie. Someone in the chat, Richie is suspended, unfortunately.
Okay, that's right as well. I mean, yeah, it feels like anytime we get guys back, we have to make a trade to then concede some players to not be available for the next game. It just seems like it's going to be that way for the rest of the season, really. I mean, Sam, you've probably seen that plenty of times. It was the case last week that people were talking about resting players, but in the back of my head, it'd be like, yeah, it'd be nice if we had maybe 18 to 20 fit players, but it just seems like it's not really the case. It's almost like we kind of do have to roll out a version of the same team that we saw in Liverpool, right, tomorrow night.
Yeah, see, like you said at the beginning, do we throw the game? I feel like you can't, because I mean, one, for the superficial thing of like, we might not get back to the Champions League for a while, so it could be your last game in the Champions League, like for however many years. Forget about that. Like, we've just broken the rut of we put a good performance in, a decent performance in at Liverpool, to then go and get cooked 5-0 at home by Atletico Madrid. Like, I just don't see. I think that we lose the little boost that we had. We've seen how weak these players are mentally. And having said that, I was thinking about this earlier. I think you go like the players that didn't play in that Liverpool game, like Romero, like Van de Ven. I don't know if you said Palhinha was fit. I would want these players. Yeah. I would want players who were unavailable for that game, like Conor Gallagher, to be thrown in amongst other players from that game, for example, because there are some players obviously that we just can't drop because we have no one else. But I want like Van de Ven to come back in and play. He's not been injured, so play 90 minutes. But anyone who's coming back in with an injury, I'd want them to play like a decent amount of football before taking them off and bringing other players on, just so that they get back up to the speed of things, because we're going to need all of these players going into the Nottingham Forest game. So I think that the match sharpness aspect of it is often overlooked when players miss a few games. And just getting back into it before that crucial game, I think, will be important. And I don't think anyone's here saying, "Oh, I want to go and like overturn 5-2 or whatever." It's not possible. But I think that most fans would accept that it's probably not going to happen. So as long as I can see the players put in a decent performance, if we get a draw or we get like a 1-0 win or something shit, like whatever, I'll take it. I'll be very happy. Even if we lose by a tight margin, I'll be moderately happy, just because it will be like, okay, I've seen enough against a team that just lost 5-3, 5-2 to a team last week. We've come back and we've at least put on a performance to take into the Nottingham Forest game. I'm sure the players will be thinking as well, like 5-2, that's a pretty hefty one to overcome in our situation.
It doesn't feel like a hefty one if you can score early, and then at some stage, maybe before at least 85th minute mark, really you have a lot of time, to be honest. If you grab that second without conceding another, all of a sudden then, right, you feel like you're back in it. I mean, 3 goals is absolutely huge to try to come back from, but we've seen so many ridiculous comebacks in the Champions League before. And knowing Spurs, when things look impossible, they seem to make the impossible possible. They're a very unpredictable club, just like what we saw against Liverpool. I think most people went into that game having no hopes whatsoever, kind of waiting for a real pounding. And we actually looked like we could have been capable of picking up more than just the point. So I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs flirt with some type of comeback tomorrow night. But I agree with you that maybe the guys that hadn't played in the Liverpool match that are, let's say, close to 100% fit still, I would throw them in that game. Those are the rotations that you can make. And it's not like you'd be fielding much of a weaker squad anyways. Just maybe the guys that did look really, honestly, gasping for air at the end of the game, maybe like a Richarlison or others in the team that, even Gray, Pop Montasar, so many of those guys look like they were just out of breath by the time the 90th minute happened. Maybe you consider resting some of those who played so well in that Liverpool game to know that then they'll be closer to 100% fit for the Forest one. But just something I thought we'd chat about just about tomorrow night. Not really sure what else there is other than the fact that maybe, Sam, I'll throw this one at you. Are you preferring right now the 4-4-2 that Igor Tudor went with against Liverpool, or are you okay with him maybe going back towards a back three again, knowing that he might now have Romero as well as Danzo and Micky Van de Ven to pick from?
I kind of watched that game and didn't really know what the formation was.
Mm-hmm.
I still kind of I still kind of thought that we were playing the back three, and basically everyone was kind of just playing wherever they felt like after that. So I don't know. I'm okay with whatever, if he wants to go for a back four, our players have done it for 2 years. If he wants to go to a back five, I think we've got the players to do it, as long as I don't have to see Pedro Porro playing right centre back again. Not because he was necessarily terrible at right centre back, but more because then we just completely lost his best aspect of his game, which is his attacking. I don't want to criticize him because we got a point out of it, but I just felt like, why wouldn't you play Jed Spence at left centre back? Someone who's comfortable playing on that side, and then play Sousa, because if you're worried about Sousa being defensively vulnerable against their right wing, which would have been Salah at some point, then you've got Jed sitting there behind him, and people complain about Jed's ability / willingness to go forward with the ball.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you he's great. He's a great defender. His defense, he had 6 out of 6 defensive duels won. It was the highest one from any player, and it was only beaten by it was the best ratio of stuff, and it was only beaten by Richarlison in terms of the number of defensive duels that were attempted. So I didn't really understand that, but I'd be okay, if you throw, for this Atletico game, you throw Mickey left centre back, Romero centre back, and maybe you play. I feel like I would want to rest Danso, because I feel like he was really in the wars in that game. And every time the ball hits his foot or he has a challenge on his foot, you can see him holding his toe. And I feel like I'm a little bit worried for him, because I feel like he has the right mentality to help Richarlison. I feel like they could be the players that help lead us out of this. So I would be happy for him to be on the bench. We're accepting that, we don't really want Dragutin playing in the Premier League. So if this game is a semi-free hit, then play Radu. He's going to be competent enough. And I prefer to have Danso more fit and ready to go for the Forest game.
No, I'm not sure how much more my eyes can. I mean, I was happy to have the point, but I felt like it was at the cost of vision damage from having to watch Radu Dragutin in possession so many times in that game. Even Vicario as well, who we might have time to talk about at the minute. But Billy, I mean, the 4-4-2 is back. Some would suggest that the game's back when you get to see a 4-4-2 with a team battling in a relegation battle. I mean, do you have any preference of the formation at the minute? Do you see one working more than the other?
I quite like the 4-4-2, to be honest. I think we're more suited that to a back five. I haven't been impressed with the back five when we played it under Tudor.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting conversation though, because I feel it'd be really harsh to drop down to at the moment. So it's interesting how to figure out all that degree of it. But I do think Liverpool is probably the best. Well, it is definitely the best we've played under Tudor, and the 4-4-2 worked well then. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Again, without Solanke and Richarlison, who knows what's going to happen, because Tell has not played striker barely this season. He's often been favoured out on the wing, so that only leaves Moani as a striker. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I will be interested to see how it goes, because I also think it would be harsh to drop down so after the weekend. So I don't know what the solution is, but I think he'll stick with the 4-4-2 as my gut feeling.
I just think with the 4-4-2, what's nice about it is that if you're kind of an interim manager, it's not really always that tactically complicated, and it really then is also a formation that suits a team that maybe doesn't have a ton of quality in their ranks. And I would say that's probably us at the minute. We're not really seeing any liquid football or any real individual brilliance from many players. The 4-4-2 seems to work for teams that everybody in the starting 11 is just going to work their tail off pretty much from minute 1 through minute 90, drop deep, sit in, then look to sort of break and try to hit teams on the counter. If you also want to play long ball, knock it up to the strikers, get it launched, it can tend to work as well. It's kind of some of the back to basics type of formation and tactics, really. And I kind of think that's where we're at really at the minute with some of the players that we have, and probably just the lack of quality, lack of confidence that maybe the guys have at the moment. I think when you go to a back 3 or a back 5, you're already kind of admitting to, probably just trying to hold the game out, make it as close as possible, but you don't really know that you're going to have much of a threat going forward for the most part. You're just going to maybe take whatever chance comes your way. But 4-4-2 seems like a nice way to still stay defensively compact, but maybe you still have a decent chance of creating moments here and there. And I mean, so many times I've seen pretty bad, especially in the World Cup, or even you would say in the Euros, you'll see like some Hungarian team or like a, Czech team or something go with the 4-4-2, and it can be actually quite effective against better teams. There's just something I think quite simplistic about it, but I hope he sticks with the 4-4-2, even if that means actually a Van de Ven or Romero, whoever might actually be on the bench, just because I agree with Billy there that I think Kevin Danzo has honestly become Mr. Reliable at the minute. I think he absolutely needs to play pretty much the remainder of these games, because he's the one that's not making mistakes and he does the basics, but also he seems to have maybe that reliability that we might need from some of the defenders. Because let's be honest, Romero, Van de Ven, and some of these crucial big matches have let us down with either mistakes or just loss of head or whatever it might be. And Kevin Danzo just doesn't seem to be that sort of guy. He kind of has the ability just to do the basics almost 100% of the time correctly. And he even covered up, I would say, for a few of those Dragic blunders on a couple of occasions when Dragic either had a loose touch, didn't have a great clearance. Kevin Danzo was there to mop it up every time. It seems like in these stages of a season, you kind of need someone like him who's just going to do all the simple stuff, as efficiently as possible. Maybe just something on the fan base right now, Billy. Some people have thought it's kind of ridiculous that even just after a point, people are now thinking that Igor Tudor should be in charge for this Forest match. What do you make of the fact that it's just one draw, one good performance, and all of a sudden now everybody's back on Igor Tudor's side and want him to take charge of the Forest game? Is that just, I don't know, is that the volatility of being a fan? Is that what it's like when it's a relegation battle? You just have to give him the benefit of the doubt? What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, people just want to cling on to anything positive at the moment. You can't blame that for a fan base that's had so much negativity thrown at it this year. And we're all just desperate to survive and whatever it may take. And I think I understand that people, in the grounded reality of that Liverpool game, it's only a point. Liverpool are struggling themselves big time. They are third in the form table, though, I did see, which is interesting. May have their own problems, and we're still winless in 2026. But I just feel like fans were just desperate to cling on to anything positive at the moment, and rightly so as well, because it's been abject miserable. And that Forest game is so monumental. The problem is you can't really, because it was the first encouraging signs that we've seen, and there was some kind of togetherness at the end when they went to the away end. If you sack him after that, it just kind of, you can't really do it. So I think we'll go into the Forest game. And that's not to say, I don't think anyone is saying they're now convinced on Tudor and he's completely turned it around or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think football is just all about momentum, isn't it? And it's the first bit of momentum we've had for a long time. So we've got to try and utilize it.
I mean, Sam, I think Igor Tudor now has the third most points of any Spurs manager of the last 10, 15 years or something away at Anfield. Is it right for Spurs fans now to be back on his side, to want him in charge for, let's be honest, I mean, Forest game is like a cup final practically, right? Is he the right guy to have in charge for it? Can that one performance, that one game be enough for him to keep his job? Because just before that Liverpool game, he was already being lined up for the sack.
Yeah, look, I mean, in different circumstances, I'd still want him gone because I haven't seen enough. But I agree with what Billy said, and I was thinking about this as well. Like, ultimately, I want to get behind the team and the manager, right? So if they give me a chance to do it, I'm going to do it. So as much as I don't think he was the right guy to bring in, and he certainly did not start well at all. You know, what was it? 14 goals and conceded and 1 goal scored before that Liverpool game. Something stupid like that. Like, genuinely, we've just been terrible. So, you know, I maintained after the before and after the Europa League final that Ange had to go regardless of the result for me personally. So I feel the same way about Tudor. I don't want to see him as the manager going forward, like into the new season. Like, but as Billy said, there is a togetherness now. The fans have seen just enough to sink their claws into to be like, all right, like Tim Sherwood said, we're having a fucking go now. You know, that's how bad it's gotten that, like, I'm looking at memes of like Spurs fans loving Tim Sherwood's like starting 11 that he was discussing for the rest of the season.
Kind of glad we didn't hire him after seeing that video. He put Conor Gallagher in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, God, Gallagher is the one thing I will say about Tudor, right? That I have been impressed with is he doesn't give a shit. I don't know if it's the situation that he's in, and it's like he's not here to make friends, but he doesn't give a shit who he's dropping right now, and I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah,
you know,
good point.
if he turned around after the Forest game and said, "Yeah, Romero, like you were shit. Like, I'm dropping you for the next game," I'd be more than behind that. Because I think that sends such a strong message to the players. You know, it's I'm not. Also, this is not me. Some people have listening problems in the chat sometimes. This is not me saying I'm saying Romero's going to have a bad game and I want him to get dropped or whatever. I'm just using him as an example as the captain.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy. I would be happy to see him be brave enough to make that decision if that happened. Hopefully it doesn't. And, you know, we go and we smoke Forest because for some reason, I say for some reason, I feel like we all know the reasons. I want Forest to go down far more than I want West Ham to go down. I think that's because I've got like you know, I've got a lot of East London roots, and my family is I've got a lot of West Ham fans in my family on my dad's side. Yeah, we keep them on that side, but I wouldn't want to see them too upset. You know, so Forest fans, I feel like they hate us so much for seemingly no reason. Like, they can go.
Well, also maybe just the fact that the way they've been running their club this season has just been absolutely baffling, that it would be amazing that we somehow were to then go down, and then they didn't, you know, from sacking, of course, Nuno, to then bringing in the opposite and Ange, to then sacking Ange, to then bringing in Sean Dyche, who seemed to be doing a decent enough job to rescue them from Ange's position, to then sack him. It would just be insanity if that actually ended up working out and they were to survive, to be perfectly honest. But I don't know. I'm just kind of with Tudor. I agree with you. I kind of also maybe tactically, he kind of confuses me at times. He doesn't seem to maybe be the smartest there, but I agree with you when it comes to the way he's been handling the situation, handling the players, the squad. I actually have a lot of respect for the guy. Like you say, I think it's the right way to put it. You know, he doesn't seem to give a shit about what people think of him, what the questions are coming at from the media, the outside pressure, or anything like that. He's actually seemingly, in terms of mentality, seems to be actually the right guy in charge. And Sherwood's, like you say, his lineup maybe suggested to me that I'm kind of glad we didn't go for someone like him to take over from this situation, because a bit of the English bias, if you will, for certain players seemed to come through heavily in that starting 11 that he put out there for me. But Yeah, it just is funny to see the volatility of fans, me included, right? Where I probably would have been fine with Igor Tudor being sacked if he didn't get any sort of result or we ended up having a stinker against Liverpool. But then all of a sudden, after we saw something to cling on to in that Liverpool game, I think I would actually have him in charge for what could be a cup final, basically, against Forest on this weekend. But knowing Spurs, we could have an absolutely dreadful performance against Atletico and we'd be having these conversations all over again. Let's go over to some of the players now, Billy. I mean, Vicario, is he becoming too much of a liability? Do you think he should have saved that Szoboszlai free kick? Is it time to give someone like Brandon Austin a chance now? I mean, what do you make of Vicario at the minute? Because to be honest, very Vicario performance. He had some amazing saves towards the end of the game, but then he also let in the goal that, was kind of typical of Vicario this season.
It's a funny situation, isn't it? Because obviously we had the Kinski disaster last week. And then, the next game, Vicario goes and chucks one in as well. I think it's quite clear that we're in a goalkeeping crisis. The free kick was a really poor error, I think, but he did make a really good save. I just think it's come too far now. How many times are we talking about Vicario I remember, I think we said on this very show, Vicario is a problem, but he's not the biggest problem. And I think it's almost like he's become the biggest problem now, I think. And it wasn't just that as well. Like the way that he plays at the back was really poor, and him and Dragusin together in particular were dreadful at that. And I just think it's better for everyone if we upgrade in summer. And it wasn't necessarily I've always thought that, centre midfield and left wing, how long have we been crying out for that? But I think we have to upgrade in summer now. But, it's interesting because obviously hindsight is an amazing thing because everyone was calling for Vicario to be dropped. And then when he was, the goalkeeper goes and has an absolute howler and gets subbed off after 15 minutes. So we're probably going to have to sit with Vicario for the rest of the season. But in summer, he's got to be upgraded. That free kick was poor. Now I think he's conceded 11 shots from outside the area in this season in the Premier League alone, which is 4 more than any other goalkeeper. So, it's becoming a big problem.
I think the huge issue, not only the fact that he's been conceding from outside the box, though, Billy, is that him and Dragusin almost were creating chances for Liverpool with how awful they are in possession. Every single time the ball goes to Dragusin or Vicario, just makes me nervous. And I think it feels like well over 50% of the time, it's every time that they clear the ball or try to pick out a pass, it often usually ends up pretty soon in a Liverpool player's foot. And then all of a sudden, they have a decent moment to try to create a look or create a chance, really. And that's where I think people were calling for someone like Kinski because they know that he was supposed to be better with his feet. Of course, maybe he had one of the worst games I've ever seen from a goalkeeper with their feet against Atletico. But part of the reason I think people couldn't stand Vicario much longer is that sometimes his kicking and his clearances and his distribution are hurting us, and you wouldn't think that would be that bad that you would be considering that sort of thing, but it really has been. Like, what was it? One of those goal kicks? I mean, Sam, back me up on this, or Billy, one of those goal kicks, he didn't even get it past the halfway line. Like, it's just, it is actually creating chances for the other team. He's that bad with his feet right now.
I that was horrendous. But the only half excuse I'll give him is when he kicked it. I don't know if you noticed it. He went straight away like he'd done something. I don't know if he kicked the ground or if he like sort of like, I don't know, strained something as he did it. But his face was like, oh, and then it continued. But yeah, I mean, Vicario, I don't know. I was definitely not one of the ones who was saying to drop him for Kinski because I've seen nothing but like shocking keeping from Kinski since the opening, like since his debut. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hate Kinski. I don't hate Kinski, and I did send him some positive / hard truth like after the game. Not that obviously he's seen it, but I wanted to, for my own sanity. I don't like seeing. I think he should have been taken off, but I don't think he should have been starting. So I felt bad. But with Vicario, as you say, for every mistake he makes, he does also make like 2 or 3 really good saves. And I'm not saying, this is not me advocating to keep him in the summer. Like, definitely have to upgrade.
No, I'm just saying for right now, these important games.
For now, you've got to do what you've got to do. Like, I kind of do agree in a sense that, like, I think Billy was saying in like around January, we were talking about like upgrading keepers, and we were saying like he's not the biggest issue. I don't necessarily agree that he is the biggest issue now, but he definitely has moved. Like, goalkeeper has definitely moved up in the priority list, I think. what I think as well though with Vicario is like he's so frustrating because you think, oh, you watch him do these amazing saves, and then he's kind of like the inverse of a striker who's better when they've got no time, you know, rather than having time. It's like as soon as he's got time to like think about making the save, he doesn't really do anything. But when it's an impulse, like, you know, he just throws his body a reaction, he is almost second to none in that regard. But unfortunately, as we've seen, there's much more than just, you know, reactions to being a goalkeeper. And as you both mentioned, his kicking is so bad. You know, what was that game a few weeks ago where he didn't connect with a single long pass? Was it the Fulham game? And then you're right, like with Radu, you can't be seeing them playing, you know, a 6-yard pass out to Dragusin on his wrong side when even if he was on his right side, you'd be scared. You know, that little clip of Jed Spence, like when Radu kicks the ball out, and you're like, oh, I feel for you, Jed, right now, because that was just none of that needed to happen. But I think Vicario can be an important cog for us towards the end of the season. We just have to somehow try and stick by him, you know?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I was going to make a similar point, actually, with Vicario, that he seems so awful at certain things, but he is also, honestly, some of the best I've ever seen when it comes to random things like quick reaction saves with no time to think about it. He does pull off these worldies. We saw it so many times under Ange, actually, that I think that actually covered up even for sometimes how open we were and how it was easy to create chances against us when we had Ange's defense, because Vicario would just pull off these miraculous saves, you know, all the time to keep us in it. And even one-on-one saves, he was also actually really good at. It seemed like he would stay really disciplined, would often kind of read where the guy was going with it. But then, like you say, there are times when it's kind of just an obvious shot, you know, that's, you know, being lined up for it feels like ages, and then he just seems to let it in quite easily, or even a shot from distance, set pieces. He seems actually quite good at the most difficult parts maybe of being a goalkeeper, and then kind of the parts that you think that you would work on a daily basis, from claiming corners or claiming crosses into your box, or just getting it launched out of your area for a clearance, or even some of the basic shots, you know, at you from distance that you think goalkeepers probably work on all the time. He seems actually quite poor at those. But then maybe the things that are just sheer talent, which is like quick reactions and one-on-ones, that sort of thing, is actually still to this day, even while he's in bad form, is actually quite amazing at. So I'm not sure if I would give it to Brendan Austin yet, but Vicario, for me, his just every week has gone by. And I agree with you. He's becoming more of the bigger issues, you know, it seems like each passing week.
Just the last word I'll say on Vicario, sorry, Billy, is I think what goes against him is the fact that we're so shit at converting chances. So all these big saves that he's making have ended up meaning nothing for us going forward, like going into games. You know, he's making like 2 or 3 saves against Fulham, we still lose. He's making 2 or 3 saves against and we're not picking up the wins. So no one cares that he's made, like, you know, an unbelievable save, because we still lost the game. So I do feel like the form has also like diminished his overall public perception as well.
Yeah, just Vicario at the minute, I would say, is becoming, just a continually a source of content or a source of conversation.
Is that, sorry to cut in there, but
no.
What you said about the basics is really interesting, because we have Tudor has bought a goalkeeper coach, and we had a really high rated goalkeeper coach that we took from Liverpool, who was working with Alisson last season. And I think we have 3 goalkeeper coaches now. So what is the coaching going on with Vicario? Like, these are just really fundamental. It's like he's really good at like instinctive saves and so that stuff that you can't coach, but the coachable stuff he's terrible at. So I don't know what our 3 goalkeeper coaches are doing.
No, like if anything, he's gotten worse at some of these basics, it seems like, since he's come into the sticks. That's what I also don't understand. It's like he's regressing. Maybe it's just one of those positions where, you know, you do feel like a very lonely man out there when you are making these mistakes. But that's the part I don't understand, is how I do feel like he has gotten worse at claiming crosses. He has gotten worse with the ball at his feet. He's gotten even worse at some of these other kind of things with shots from distance. doesn't make a lot of sense to me, really.
And my, I thought, great, we're getting Alisson, one of the best goalkeepers the Premier League's ever seen. We're getting the coach that helped Alisson, but it's not turned out that way, has it?
No. Billy, just maybe one more thing on sort of the goalkeeper situation, and we can keep this quite brief. What did you make of Kinski's supposed smirk reaction after we conceded that Szoboszlai free kick? Was that just bad timing from the camera panning to him, or is there maybe something to read into that? The fact that he seemed to be kind of hiding
I think
a
it's
smile.
probably bad. I think it's bad timing. Yeah, and I think it's just like it's probably the same reaction that every Spurs fan had as well. It's like you just can't believe. Like it's just it's like it's the fact that it happened after so close to Tuesday was interesting. Yeah, I didn't read too much into it because I know that I know that Kinski is massively popular with the players, and I think you saw that in their reaction to him being treated like he was. So I don't think I didn't really treat it as like a negative thing for Kinski. I think it's just what happened when he probably knew that the camera's going to be on him after Wednesday. It's probably like after Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was. He probably knew that when someone shoves a camera in your face like that, it's probably a natural reaction to do that.
Yeah.
You know what it was as well? I think he looked a bit like a Disney villain.
Yeah,
with his little his pencil mustache and his little soul patch, and it was like, this little he's creasing like he's it's a perfect master plan has come together, and I think that has also enraged people a bit further. I agree with you guys. I think it's hopefully nothing too sinister. I feel like maybe it would have even been a bit of banter, like someone saying to him like, "I bet you're happy you weren't in goal." You know what I mean?
But even should they be doing that? Like, should they even be making
but it's like, you know what I mean? People, it's dark humor, like,
yeah,
I feel like you have to be able to make fun of yourself in that situation, not necessarily saying that I want all our players to make fun of our situation, but I feel like you have to have some humor in this stuff or it will just destroy you.
Maybe though. I sometimes I'm a bit of a Grinch about this sort of stuff, but I kind of felt like Lee Gunner in that meme of like, why is he fucking laughing? Like, why is he smirking? Because it's like when you see, and I've seen this before. I remember this clearly. There was a time when under Ange, I think we were 2-0 down in like 15 minutes, and Brennan Johnson and James Maddison were warming up, and they're giggling and laughing to each other. And it's like, we're fucking 2-0 down, like, boys, like, please, like, we actually give at least the image or at least the facade as if we do care that we're in this position right now. Like, I know it's difficult. The cameras are always on you. Of course, you're human beings at the end of the day, but it is sometimes about displaying some type of, again, it can be fake or it can be a bit of acting, but like, I just don't think it's ever a good look. And I'm not sure if Kinski's smirk reaction is anything to read into, or if it is maybe just really bad timing. But it does remind me of like when you are 2-0, 3-0 down and you're seeing guys warming up, kind of giggling with the other players and like grabbing each other's asses and things like that. And you're just kind of like, come on, boys, like seriously, like this isn't like an under 12s match or something like that. And like, I think there's cameras everywhere.
I think there's just a lot of things when you sort of zoom out a little bit and you just really remember that footballers are largely just idiots. Like they're just absolute morons most of the time. And you fall in love with the ones that play for your team, but when you sort of zoom out and look at it as a whole, these are just young guys that are absolute morons most of the time. It's essentially what a lot of football comes down to, And obviously on the bad end of that is they sometimes behave absolutely despicably. So yeah, it is funny when you realize we put all of our faith into these young men that sort of, toy with our mental health for a year, a season.
Yeah. Yeah. I very much had the inner Lee Gunner, meme of that. Why is he fucking laughing?
Did you see, by the way, on that very note, did you see the Richarlison thing?
No. Tell me.
So this is brilliant. It's exactly like that. So he is he's doing a live stream of Tottenham Liverpool, and Richarlison scores and he gets really annoyed. This is Lee Gunner, of course. And then he goes, why is he celebrating? He does exactly the same thing. He's talking about his celebration, talking about saying he should be sent off for celebrating an equalizer. And the best thing about it is Richarlison's reposted it on TikTok.
You can't hide from Richarlison on the social media of all the players. That
relegation Richarlison is a special.
That picture
thing.
He put up of him and Van Dijk as well.
Yeah,
absolutely comical.
No,
I saw. If you look at the stuff that came out from the Everton relegation fight, there's so much good stuff from Richarlison on social media. He calls out Jamie Carragher. He sings. There's a chant singing this Everton song. He tweeted to Jamie Carragher, like, think about it before you put my name in your mouth again and stuff like that. He just comes alive in this kind of drama, Richarlison.
if anything, sometimes the cliche of like, players should stay off social media, they should, keep that away, to really focus on the football. Richarlison might be the one exception. It's like, please
Yeah.
keep him on social media as
I
much
also
as
love
possible.
that, when it's like a social media manager that's posting the tweets. People like
Yeah.
Richarlison, it's actually him as well. Like, that's not a social media guy.
No, there's no Joe Hart
I feel like
situation there.
if Richarlison, can inspire us to stay up, he won't have been necessarily a success, but he is automatically like catapulted into like
hero.
Tottenham
Cult hero.
like he is a hero.
Lamella kind of
involved, had actually a very good game in the Champions League final.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Sorry, Europa League final. And inspired, let's hope he goes on and scores like 8 goals or whatever towards the end of the season to get us out, a goal a game to get us out the mess. Yeah,
I think he would kind of join the Sissoko sort of realm of, like strange cult hero, maybe.
I'd have to get a Richarlison shirt.
Yeah.
I think if he scores, I'll tell you what, I'll say it now. If he scores, I'll say if he scores 6 goals and we stay up from now to the end of the season, I'll get a Richarlison signed shirt for my wall.
Can any clippers clip that, please? So we've got it. We've got it there.
Yeah,
please.
I'll join you as well. In fact, I'll get a Richarlison tattoo. I'll get a pigeon tattoo.
I also hope that Richarlison gets a head social media job at some sort of club, after he does leave.
It sounds like he's going to go in summer, doesn't it? So there's lots of links with him back to Brazil, but he'd just leave a hero, wouldn't it, if he did that? He should have his own bus parade if he keeps us up.
Yeah. We have 2 more things we're going to get stuck into. We will make time for that Micky Van de Ven situation roundtable. If you guys can, though, please do smash the like button. We would really appreciate it, by the way. It does help out the channel a ton. But Billy, this weekend, it's a massive weekend. People are wondering, maybe the decision and sort of the thought process behind you guys maybe not organizing any protests that are upcoming, or at least in the very near future. But you also, I know, tweeted just today that things are in the works, though, behind the scenes. I mean, what's sort of the situation, and was the decision like to maybe not go with a protest anytime soon?
Of course. I'll just go through the brief sort of history of it. So obviously, in reaction to the January transfer window, which I think everyone can agree was a complete disgrace and may well end up sending our club down. If we do get relegated, we'll look back on that January transfer window as a key moment in the cost that they did it. An absolute disgrace the way that the season has been gone. Change for Tottenham were planning to put some serious pressure on the ownership every home game this season, starting with Forest and Brighton. That was sort of a reaction to the the January transfer window, and we were rightly inundated with very, very angry fans at that point. And then obviously things deteriorate very quickly. When we played West Ham, we were 13 points above them. We're now 1 point above them, and it's about a month or 2 later. So things have changed very, very quickly, and we find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. And after the Crystal Palace game, kind of talking about relegation, Richie, I don't know if you guys saw, there was this big sort of, Everton fans were going, well, look at all these Tottenham fans leaving their stadium at half time. This is what we did when we were in the relegation fight. We started going to the streets of Everton, flares and songs and chants and stuff. And then there's an interview of Andros Townsend where he's talking about Everton, and he says, we were losing every single game. We had no hope in hell. And suddenly Everton fans started gathering outside the stadium before games. It really spurred us on and ended up getting us over the line. So a new movement kind of started, led by a couple of guys that decided, well, why don't we try and do that at Tottenham? And then obviously we had the decision, well, do we, the protest before, do we want to interact with that, or what happens there? And it's a really difficult decision to counter the protest, but 2 things on it. Firstly, doesn't mean that we're still not holding the ownership to account, because I don't think any fan would have any faith in these owners in our football club, and the way the season has gone, the way that the big decisions have gone, the way they've handled the club, and the neglect that they've shown. But there's just kind of the feeling now that as fans, our job at the moment, and we shouldn't, you shouldn't have to put pressure on the fans, particularly with how we've been treated this season, and particularly with how we're treated financially in particular. But I just kind of feel fans, we have to support the team now. If that makes 5% of difference, it could be the difference in keeping Tottenham up. So that has been paused, not cancelled, paused the protest. And hopefully, when the chips are down, we either stay up or we don't. That's when the time is to put the pressure on. But it feels like a really important time to get behind the team now. So why I keep looking at my phone, sorry, at the moment, is because we've just posted all the details. We were planning to do it at 8, but someone leaked it somewhere, so we've gone early. And that's all now on my Twitter. It's on Spurs Song Sheet Twitter, Rot's Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. You'll find it on there. It's called Sing Up to Stay Up. We're going to meet before the game. We're going to meet and chant. We're going to have the drummer from the Spurs. The Spurs Stadium is going to be there. To be quite honest with you, it's funny. Obviously, in my day job, my other Tottenham hat is organising protests against the board and stuff, which is interesting. But this one, the club have been really on board, and they've supported some of it. They're going to put a bigger barrier out so we know where to stand. The club have really been on board with this, to be fair. So it should be really good, and hopefully, just maybe the players driving past that, loads of Tottenham fans gathered in the street will realise how important it is to us fans and why they have to stay up. So yeah, look for those details on Twitter. It's going to be from early doors on Sunday, basically from about 11:30. The team bus is scheduled to arrive around 1 o'clock ish, so get there for around that time. We're encouraging people to wear white. We had a meeting with Met Police on Monday, and they said no flares, but I'm sure you can read between the lines that people are going to bring them anyway. Just don't say that they encouraged it. And so that's the idea. So I just kind of feel, I don't know how you guys feel, but I just kind of feel at the moment, as a fan base, it'd be good to know that we tried to do everything we could in this absolutely ridiculous situation that we find ourselves in.
Well, just as a follow-up, Billy, I don't know what it was like to make this decision, but how hard is it sometimes to maybe read the tone or read kind of the room in situations like this? Because that the issue is with the ownership, but then you're also concerned with the fact that maybe at times like this, you almost do have to just, like we say, just maybe postpone something for the immediacy of just backing these players. I mean, that was probably the hardest thing, was kind of just reading the room, I guess.
Of course it was, and football changes so quickly, and change for Tottenham. I'm not the sole member of Change for Tottenham or anything like that. It's just, but everyone that does it are just season ticket Spurs fans, like us guys talking here, and fans are the same as anyone. Fans react emotionally, and sometimes Change for Tottenham make mistakes. Sometimes we get reactionary. In January, we were very angry, so we're like, we have to protest Forest and Brighton. We have to do that. It's really, really important. And then suddenly you're in a relegation battle, and things change. And it's not to say that the anger still isn't there, because it is, and it always will be. But at the same time, that anger kind of conflicts with the fact. Yeah, there you go. Conflicts with the fact that we have to support the team. And that's not to say that protesting necessarily goes against that, but I just kind of feel like if we were arranging a protest that's going at the same time as this movement, that would be conflicting for fans. And at the moment, I just feel a lot of the fans, and rightly so, want to get behind the team.
Please, everybody, do follow Billy on Twitter. Do follow Change for Spurs, Change for Tottenham. These are the details that you can find at Billy's Twitter, as well as I know Change for Tottenham put out already a statement today, and then I think there's going to be more posts and information coming out. So if you do want to be there, be with a lively atmosphere, lively fan group, and show support for these players, please, follow these accounts so you know where to be at the right time as well.
And just a little bit of a sneak peek for our amazing listeners for St. Patrick's Day. This isn't the only thing that's going on. There's some other stuff going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of people that want to show goodwill towards the players. So look out on Thursday on social media around lunchtime as well. THCFC Flags are doing something fantastic. They've made 200 flags for this event that they're going to hand out to fans for free. They've also made a banner for the game. And also in the works, there's a couple other things which I can't really announce, but just look out for social media across the week. There's going to be some really good stuff going on, because a lot of people are now trying to pull together. And I kind of feel like with Anfield and with Igor Tudor and everything, I kind of feel like Tottenham need to build this siege mentality now, that it's us against the world, because that is literally what it is at this point. Everyone wants us to go down. And, you kind of see in Tudor in those combative interviews, you see in the Liverpool fighting spirit, maybe now we just need to all come together, and it's us Tottenham fans against everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, anything to add? I mean, some people were saying oh, maybe you can do both, but I just kind of think in the immediacy of the moment, it is maybe just about putting aside, or just temporarily putting aside, or like Thomas said here, I'm all for protesting, but right now, right this moment, we need to show support and get behind the players. So, Sam, I mean, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to go to the game this Sunday, but anything on just sort of the atmosphere that we're going to try to generate to mimic maybe what Everton had done in the past?
Well, yeah. So I actually am going to the game. I just the Palace game and this game, I like they were so important, and there was tickets available. I had to go. I think this is a great message, like, to send to the team, and to like show the unity of the club. And I mean, to be honest, I like to think, Billy, that you weren't really involved in the last statement that much, because it actually, like, I was quite upset with the statement, the last one. I felt like, you've just spoken for 5 minutes, very well and passionately about like the unity and getting everyone together. And I felt like that last statement was very polarizing. It was very like, you guys are the reasons we're here, and I felt like it absolved like all the real reasons, and instead like maybe turned fans who, like myself, were supportive, then seeing it being like, oh damn, like apparently it's my fault we're getting relegated. So I'm glad that
Yeah, and I think, and as I said before, I think some fans just react emotionally because that's what fans do. We're all emotional sometimes, and I think there's definitely been mistakes in the past. But I think now that what we can all do now is sort of change direction and really try and get together as a fan base with the players as well, because both sides have been broken, haven't they? It's been, so I completely understand that, which is why I think it's a good time for a little bit of a fresh start, everyone together.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I will. I'll be getting over there then for you say for 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to meet from around 11:30, but the bus should be there.
Maybe I'll head up. I'm a late sleeper, but we'll see how it goes.
Anytime early will be good, and hopefully the weather will be all right.
Yeah, well, whatever the weather, as we like to say. Everybody, show some support, please. If you are able to attend the matches and you are planning on attending this one, consider, if you have the time for it, show up early. I imagine it will be a raucous atmosphere. And also, I know the players should be able to respond to it well, because they're definitely feeling the pressure. They haven't necessarily delivered on it, maybe much this season, but if they do see a decent crowd and they do show once again, or they see once again that these fans have been getting behind them, no matter how much of a tumultuous season it has been, I think they will definitely use that as fuel, as momentum, hopefully, for what feels like a cup final, in my opinion, really. We're going to finish things off with...
Sorry, go ahead. Jack, Artis is like spamming me in the in the chat, because he is he's rightly saying I said that I wasn't going to go, that I wasn't going to go this season to any of the games. The thing is, Artis, it's gotten to a point where like I actually feel like I'm one of the more positive fans for some reason at the moment. And I feel like I want to get there, and I'm not necessarily the loudest person in the stands, but I want to be there and offer my support, But when I said that, it was like 4 months ago or whatever, and I thought we would start to pull out of it sooner than we have. So, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm going to go and watch the team that I've like watched my whole life, and have suffered with.
And I think that's a bit like change with Tottenham, isn't it? We're just football fans. We react to emotions because we get very emotional about it, And we were, people always say that as well. What happened to the protests and stuff like that? It's not that it's the same. We're all reacting to an absolutely really emotional situation all the time. So you can see why we all change our minds sometimes, because this is so important to our mental health and emotion. And it's like, I don't know about you guys, but after that result on Monday, my week is just so different now, and we're all human beings at the end of the day. We're all reacting to this absolute dopamine that we get from this football club, or lack of it.
I mean, everyone gets it from Artist. He called me a lunatic and a bozo for thinking that we were going to play a back four in the game against Liverpool. And turns out I was right once again. So he just, I think,
he was the right wing. Whoever would have seen that coming, eh?
I guess I did. But I didn't know if I was of sane mind at the time. Turns out I was, even though I was being called a lunatic by him. We're going to finish things off here, lads, with just the Micky Van de Ven dispelling of the rumors that there are players giving up on the team, knowing that they could be leaving in the summer. He said the other day when we read that one guy told the rest of the team that he doesn't care because he's leaving anyway, it's just made up. And the fans will believe it, which is frustrating for us guys. It's not true that the players have switched off. They say the players are going to leave either way. It's just nonsense, and people are believing it. I mean, of course, Billy, like Micky Van de Ven, is going to dispel these rumors. So who do you believe then, him or the media that have put out these rumors?
It's an interesting one because, it's you have to take the player at face value, right? You have to believe the player at the end of the day because they come out and said it. But I don't know. I don't think you can blame anyone for maybe thinking that way because his body language has been off. His his performances have been rash. And I can guarantee you, almost every player in that Spurs team is probably thinking, "I am going to leave if they get relegated." I don't, for him to come out and deny it, I think he's denying it publicly. But I'm sure what's going on behind the scenes is different. But what I'm hoping for now is that we use this sort of situation and we use Sunday and we use the rest of the season to repair that relationship with the players. And like I said, there's some stuff coming out on this week that's going to be really, really worth keeping an eye on in regards to that in particular. It's just because we need a fresh start badly. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was true and he was coming out in defence of it publicly. But I just think we all need to move on from this now and sort of move on towards supporting the players and just being together again. Because, as I say, it's been absolutely fractured this season. I mean, Micky Van de Ven, you can say that like publicly and stuff, but it wasn't so long ago he was going to fight Spurs fans in the stand, and like his body language looks like he doesn't want to be here. So, it's probably a bit of both, is what I would say, in the grey area. But we need to come together now and be united, hopefully.
I mean, the fact that he even was a part of the press conference, you wonder if either it was just Igor Tudor that decided to select him, or maybe Van de Ven sort of.
I also think he's just come out and done an interview on Spurs Official as well, so it seems like there's a concerted push, doesn't it, towards Van de Ven?
Yeah, because if maybe there was some truth to it, I don't know, maybe I'm being kind to Van de Ven here, Billy and Sam, but if there was some truth to it, maybe he would just sort of hide behind the shadows a little bit. But if he really feels like that this is way off, that this is just nonsense in his words, this is what you would do, right? You come out in the press conference, you would address it, like Billy's just said there, you would address it as well on the Spurs official media. So maybe there is some, validity here from Van de Ven to say that this is just nonsense from the media that's been coming out.
I wonder, I mean, obviously we all watched the Gary Neville interview. There's two reasons why I brought that out. The first, and the one I'll get out of the way, is like, obviously that has fed into the narrative. It's like, we saw Harry Kane do the Gary Neville interview and then it was like, he was off. So that's fed into the whole like hysteria around Micky Van de Ven that's been going on. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there is any truth to either side of it, whether it is or isn't true what was being said behind the scenes. I wonder if, because his dad's his manager, right, or his agent. So yeah. his dad worked in the army as well. I feel like in people in those sort of environments, they have like a higher level of respect for things. And I wonder if like his dad has seen him over the last like few weeks looking like petulant and looking disinterested, and has maybe said to him, red card after this game, maybe said to him, Mickey, pull your finger out.
Yeah. I'm maybe a bit of a tinfoil hat person when it comes to this. I don't really believe a lot of the sports journalists around football in particular, because we've seen how off they are when it comes to transfer rumors. They put this story, that story out, then they're just so off the mark about it, and then they're, 10 minutes before transfer's happening, then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, by the way, like inside source, it's coming out. I've just seen them be wrong on so many occasions that I do just feel like when times are tough, when things are going wrong at a club, they sort of just put out what maybe fans are thinking and then claim to have some sort of inside source, to validate it, to almost make themselves seem distinguished in comparison to the fans. Because for a while now, us fans have been accusing these players of potentially not caring enough. Maybe a lot of these guys do know that they're out the door sometime soon, so their concern for the long-term future of the club might not be there. And we've made these speculations, we've made these conjectures, and I think a lot of the journalists, probably have seen that, and then they just use that as fuel to put out some article and then pretend as if it's being backed up by some sort of inside source, when I think they're almost, in a way, just putting out the theories that fans might be doing, which are maybe right or wrong, we don't know. But oftentimes I actually rarely believe that there's some sort of inside source that's coming from the club, especially at times like this. If you were to be a player that would leak that to a journalist, why would you at a time like this? It just doesn't help anyone, really. And I wonder if that's what Van de Ven is also alluding to, is like, why would that come out right now when that's the last thing that we need, to be perfectly honest. But maybe I am just a conspiracy theorist on this. I am just a bit of a tinfoil hat man. But lads, I think I want to keep it around an hour tonight. So Billy, Sam, thank you guys for your for your contributions. Thank you guys for continually showing up week in, week out. And finally, we have a point. We have some sort of thing to cling on to after the weekend. And we have a distraction almost, it feels like, tomorrow, because really it feels like the bigger game is on Sunday. And it just shows that
Hey,
that's how crazy.
If we need any inspiration, though, Sporting Lisbon have pulled it back to 3-3 on tonight. So it's doable.
Yeah, we're
3-0 up currently.
We might be the only team in Europe that's capable of picking up a result. It seems like away at Bodo Glimt. Clearly
we
are.
were the joint English top scorers in Europe last week with Chelsea. Both of us losing 5-2. No other English team scored more than one goal.
Yeah, it's just we're a whole different outfit maybe in Europe. That's the thing we could cling on to. But just want to say thank you guys. Thanks for taking time out of your evenings. Happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Once again, though, please do follow Billy over on X. Please do follow Change for Spurs, especially if you want to be there for the support and for the rallying of the troops ahead of what is a massive, massive game for this season. Would love to see so many people there. Would love to see some images and some pictures and content of the people that are out there looking to support the players. And hopefully the players see that and understand once again that no matter how bad the season has gotten, we have tried our very, very best to get behind them and show them the love and support to try to get through the rest of this season. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Sam. Thanks to everybody in the chat for being here with us. As always, come on, you Spurs, and we'll see you tomorrow for the watch along and the pre-match build-up.
Gosh.